Hey, good afternoon. It's Sunday. This video I want to talk about how rust never sleeps. Rust never sleeps, especially in older men, older guys. Rust never sleeps. But you can always come back. You can always come back and you can always improve your situation. And in this case, we're talking about physically, but it can apply in any other area of your life as well, not just to your physical conditioning or functionality. You can always improve functionality. You can always improve functionality, no matter where you're at, no matter what you've been through. But in this instance right now, my first-hand example today, I guess semi-retired or retired from turning wrenches in other people's shops. I think probably it's been a good year ago, maybe a little longer. Just as time, just had enough, you know what I mean? Working for somebody else all the time. And it was a great career, made a lot of money, and it always served me well. But I started to do motorcycle repairs and builds, customization stuff here out in the garage. And then I got this all to the point, it came to a head where I was at a crossroads and I was looking at shops to lease, to rent. So why wouldn't I just go buy a shop? Well, initially I did. I looked for shops to buy because, the kind of places I were looking for are few and far in between, right? So I had found one, like I said, it's not an area I really wanted to move into, because if I make a move at that level, then that's probably where I'm going to be. Then I saw a couple shops. Actually, right now there are two really great shops. One is outstanding, turnkey, ready to go. But, and it's close. It's close. It's probably 5 miles from here. So I thought about that and I said, do I want to go ahead and commit and sign a lease or for the next year? Because I figured that way it's really not as much of an investment. I have the tooling that I need, and I could just go like a bat out of hell and make as much money as I can make in the next year, maybe 2 years tops, and then be done. And in the end, just a job became available. It just seems like it was meant to be, because the shop is so low key, so low stress. They have a sizable volume of work, and it's a place that's very profitable for me to be. So 5-day work week. So I thought, okay, I'll go ahead and get back into this then. Let's get some money going here. And the other thing was, when I was looking at shops, am I going to open a motorcycle shop? Am I going to work on cars? Am I going to work on a little bit of both? What am I going to do? Because here I'm working strictly on motorcycles. And there's enough market for that. There's enough to go around. I could absolutely do that. But the problem with me working at home is that I have too many distractions. Too many distractions. Really, I find that I'm more productive if I have to get up and leave and go to another location and work is isolated in that location. I'm there to work. A lot of people are like that with the gym. I'm not like that with the gym. I can actually, that's so well incorporated into my world, in my life, that I can come downstairs and I can get a better workout here than I can if I go to a gym. But there are a lot of people, and I used to be one of them, that need to go to the gym because they need to keep that distinct and separate, that once they're there, they know why they're there, and they're going to get busy and do what they have to do, whereas if they're at home and it's that convenient, they may slack. Well, I'm like that with work, So, the whole reason this applies to this video is I don't feel like I'm out of shape. I feel like I'm in very good shape for my age and steadily improving even. But I went back to work and it kicked my ass. Kicked my ass. The first week, it was all I could do. It wasn't like I was coming home, coming down the basement, working out, making videos, or any of this kind of stuff. I was beat. And from what? What's really that challenging? Well, from many times like pulling transmissions in and out to replace a clutch or whatever, holding my hands up over my head that long, and all this pressing movements and all this kind of stuff, and just standing, walking, being on a concrete floor all day long, you know, again, all day, crawling up underneath of dashes and tight spaces and having to contort myself to get in these little places, getting these big mitts I have down in these little tight spots, and still having to exercise a high degree of dexterity, very high degree of dexterity. If you're a mechanic or anything like that, you know exactly what I mean compared to a normal person. You know, we develop an incredible degree of dexterity. And, you know, all this kind of craziness, and it's not really craziness, it's just normal day in and day out for many people. When I was doing it day in and day out for so many years, it never occurred to me that this is a really laborious thing to do. But it beat my ass. I was stiff, achy. I'm still stiff. And today's Sunday, so I had off all day yesterday and all day today, and I'm still stiff. You know, so I'll become reacclimated. I'll get back into condition to do this kind of stuff. But my point being, you wouldn't think, you know, with everything else that I do and all the functionality that I display and regularly exercise in my life and go out of my way to do, you wouldn't imagine it would be this way. You know, that's just something like going to work every day turning wrenches, that now that would be like so much more of a toil for me physically. But it is, and it was. And like I said, I'll reacclimate, but having not had to do all this for a solid year, and now just thrust straight back every day, you know, it surprised me. It surprised me. So it's just one more experience in these more recent decades that show me rust never sleeps. Rust never sleeps, and you should train to your weakness, number one. But if you're not really doing anything, you really can't identify what your weakness is. You know, if you're not really doing anything, I would have thought I was in really great shape. I wouldn't have really thought that returning to work was going to be that much of a, make a big difference. But it does. It extracted a heavier toll, things I wasn't used to doing, all that contorting yourself to get into places and everything else. Yep. So, I'm not saying it's a really hard job. I'm saying I absolutely fell out of condition for doing that, even though I stay into condition otherwise here. You know, I work on a heavy bag, I work on a speed bag, and I'm quite good at that speed bag. I've always been good on a heavy bag. You know, I have a lot of decades of training, you know, classical training in that realm. I'm lifting weights all the time, working out all the time, stretching, all this other kind of shit, right? Doing stuff outside on the property. And right now it's time to grow. You know, we're right at the beginning of the growing season where, you know, it's time to grow some produce and stuff. So I'm doing more of that than I even did last year. So, but then you throw this in and something I'm not immediately used to anymore, and it shows me, it reiterates to me that how quickly rust does accumulate, how quickly you do dull, your edge does dull a little bit. But the other thing is that even with the aches and the pains and a little bit of inconvenience because you're not used to it or acclimated to it, if you continue to do it, I have no doubt in my mind that give me another week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it'll be like old hat. It'll be like, it won't affect me like that. I'll be able to come home, plenty of energy, still work out, every other thing, just like I used to do forever and ever and ever. But after doing it for decades, my point is 1 year away from it, and even in light of all the other things I do to stay fit and functional, it's got to be because of age. That is how quickly rust can accumulate. That is how quickly. So the message in that, that I think is worth perhaps considering in your life, maybe, is if you're an older guy and you're trying to stay viable, you're trying to stay fit for life, you're trying to stay fit for duty for just your life, that things you may have been really good at before or things that may have been easy for you, if you haven't done them in a long time, maybe you should try them again. And more than that, it drives home the reality that we all have to train. To whatever degree that is, we all have to train, we all have to exercise, we all have to work out, or, use it or lose it literally at this age. You're going to lose mobility. You're going to lose, dexterity. You're going to lose all kind of shit. You really, whatever it is you need to do it. If you have something that you enjoy doing that requires a little bit more thought process, like even playing guitar. You know, you need to continually do that. You need to continually do these things to keep your brain going. Maybe it's puzzles. Maybe you like to play jigsaw, you know, fill out jigsaw puzzles and challenge your mind that way. You know, if that's something you've enjoyed in life, continue to do it, or maybe look at doing it, or, you know, some of these brain teasers, or whatever exercises you can do to stay cognitively, you know, as sharp as you can, to reduce the amount of impairment, you know, that is going to accumulate as we continually age. And likewise for your physical conditioning in your body and that angle of functionality. Yeah. So you can think that you're as fit, you know, as a fiddle, but the age does make a difference, you know. Whereas as a young man, you're just fit. You're just fit. If you just in your life, if you do anything, you know, and if you totally don't agree with this, if you're an older guy and you're saying, oh, I completely disagree, well, think about it this way. And I've said it before. When you're younger, you're like a rubber ball. You know, if you're very active, right, you're like a rubber ball. When you bounce, you roll, it's nothing to it. When you're older, you're like a cube. You hit the ground, you don't bounce and roll like that anymore. You just don't. Now there are corners and edges and things that scrape and grind. Yeah, you don't just hit the ground and roll like a rubber ball anymore. So if that's a little easier for you to swallow, for you to say, yeah, I agree with that, believe me, the rest of what I'm telling you is true. It rings true. So that's just it, just a word to the wise based on my own life experience as a guy that is 60 and is in incredible condition for his age. I still am 60. There's no resetting the clock. You can slow it down, you can turn it back a little bit, but there's no 360 degrees, you know, that you're going to be covered completely and you're going to be immune from the deficiencies that come with age, with older age, or from the wear and tear and the accumulative effect of that comes with older age. And the other thing I would really speak very highly of is just commitment to whatever it is that you're doing and to remain functional. Because when you don't, you know, when you make concessions because something hurts now, something's uncomfortable now to do. Well, that's uncomfortable. That never used to be. Well, now that hurts. I've got arthritis in my hand. I've got this and I've got that. You know, I don't know how far you've let that progress and how many concessions you've made. I don't know how deeply into that you can go and how much of a grip it can get on you to where you might get to the point you're not coming back from that. But, you know, I've had all these things. You know, when I get scans and when I get, you know, all this other kind of shit, they tell me I have arthritis here. Well, you got some arthritis there. I have no pain from that. I have no pain at all from that. I have no limited range of motion from that or reduced range of motion. You know, I don't know if you guys remember or saw it, but I spoke about a year ago about this left hand. That when I first started working at Speedbag and got this heavy bag down here so I could regain some of my, you know, youthful vigor in that regard, in those areas, I realized that my left hand, that I could hardly make it was very difficult to make a tight fist. Right hand, no problem. Left hand, very, very difficult to make I don't know if you heard that, but I even cracked a little bit. Make a really tight fist. You know, right hand was always not a problem. Left hand was getting to be a problem. And so what I started to do was, because it was attributed to arthritis, what I started to do was ball my hand up in a fist and squeeze it as hard as I could anyway, and even to help push it in as tight as a fist as I could make. Like, I couldn't do this initially. And it hurt like a son of a bitch. And then immediately after doing that, I couldn't open my hand all the way back up. I couldn't stretch my fingers all the way out like this, full extension. Then I would have to lay my hand on the bed and push it down flat and leave it like that until the pain subsided and it stretched back out. But I did this repetitively, day in and day out, and within only 2 weeks, it disappeared. No more pain, like a really hard-ass fist, you know, wail on that heavy bag, no problem. But now, if I had just said, oh man, I got arthritis in my hands, that really hurts, I can't do that. Where would I be today, another year later? Once you begin to make concessions, it's all downhill from there. And I'm not making light of it. I'm not putting anybody else I'm not downing their experience or how they've coped or handled or lived. But once you begin to make concessions, it's all downhill. There'll be more and more and more, and you'll make more concessions, and that's how you become infirm. That is how you get there. Maybe, quite realistically, you're not going to stop at all. You're not going to, hold it all off. But, if you don't at least put up a fight and rail against it, then you really have no chance. At least if you put up a good fight, if you stay in the fight, if you stay engaged, if you continue to rail against it, then you've got a chance. You've got a real good chance. And I would be willing to bet that 100% of the time, it's going to improve you to some degree or another. That's it. I just wanted to talk about that, speak about that. And of course, there are all manner of supplementation that you can turn to, to encourage your body. Stuff like collagen. I consume collagen every day. And there's a lot more things. And that's a whole other bottle of whiskey to discuss there. But the point is, man, don't quit on yourself. Don't quit on yourself, and don't be a lazy fuck. Don't do it. If you've fallen into these bad habits and there's cobwebs all over the place and you're lazy as shit, I'm talking about you. Make yourself do something. Start with a little. A little is 100% more than what the fuck you did yesterday. Start with a little, for God's sake. Can you do that? Or why are you even still here? Why are you still here? There's no fight in you anymore? Well, if you want to stay functional, if you want to stay on this side of the dirt, and you want to actually still live a life with some semblance of quality, you can. You can. Don't let anybody tell you you can't, sell you short. You can do it no matter what you're up against. But if you don't believe in you, and you won't give yourself a chance, and you've got no fight in you, then you have no chance. You're letting everybody else and everything else and all the other stimulus, you're letting all that contort and twist you and bend you into whatever your future becomes. So reclaim your fucking life and go after it, man. Consistency is what gets it done. Consistency, even just a little bit every day. Be consistent, little bit. That's it. I'm out of here. Best of luck, man. God bless. Take care. Hope you had a great weekend. I'll talk to you again soon.